Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Morning, welcome along to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number, won't cost you to make a call. And Leanne is producing today. We are coming to you live from Nina. Coming up on the show this morning, we'll be hearing from a Tipperary woman who will discuss her fight to become the first endometriosis patient to be granted a ministerial licence to use cannabis. I'll talk to Amy Brown in just a few moments' time. We'll also be hearing from Councillor Michael Chicken Brennan, who will join us on antisocial behaviour and other matters. The every 15-minute programme, would it work in Ireland? And Leanne will explain all of that to us. We'll also be hearing from the Labour TD, Conor Sheehan, who has been left very concerned indeed by what he sees as homophobic sentiment in Ireland. Our GP, Dr. Pat Harold, will be with us live in studio, and the great Tom Bawn will chat to us about the great outdoors. So all of that and much, much more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Now, Amy Brown is a Tipperary cannabis campaigner and is speaking publicly about her fight to become the first endometriosis patient to be granted a ministerial licence to use cannabis in Ireland. And Amy joins me now. Good morning to you, Amy.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, Amy, and great to talk to you again, and thank you for coming on with us. Just for clarity to begin with, would you just explain endometriosis to us and what exactly it is?
So endometriosis, it's a systemic inflammatory condition that can affect any organ in the body. So it's often mistaken as a reproductive disease, as in it affects the ovaries and the uterus, but it's actually much wider than that. It can affect any organ in the body. And I happen to be one of the unfortunate ones that had it in the diaphragm. So I had it 50 millimetres deep across my entire diaphragm wall. So it's a tissue that feeds off its own blood supply, its own hormone supply. It's a very sophisticated disease that we don't know a lot about, and it's incurable. The gold standard treatment is excision surgery, which is not widely available. So I've had 2 surgeries in Romania, and I've been campaigning for the last 6 years to raise awareness for other women to be able to go to the same treatment centre and actually be effectively treated, because unfortunately we just don't have the skills or expertise in Ireland.
And it took many, many years for you to be properly diagnosed, Amy.
Yeah, so it started when I was around 8 and I was diagnosed when I was 21.
Wow. And right throughout that time, I mean, you displayed all of the signs and symptoms of this. Why wasn't it picked up, do you think?
Well, in my opinion, I was dismissed. I was labelled dramatic. You know, the pain couldn't be that bad. Should you look fine? You know, it was very much like they didn't take my word for what I was going through. I wasn't treated as a reliable witness to my own suffering.
And will you explain that pain to me that you went through and that challenged you right through those years, Amy? I mean, how bad was it?
Well, I'd be screaming in pain 1 minute and then I'd completely pass out. I'd faint. So, like, the pain was so bad on occasions that my body, like, just couldn't handle it. I would just pass out. I'd faint. I fainted in public, in shops, in work, in so many places over the years. And it was just awful. Like, you always felt like a burden on your workplace. You felt like a burden in school because you constantly had to go home and change your uniform. And there was just so many layers to it. And I honestly believe that the psychological impact is far, far worse than the physical pain.
And because you were diagnosed so late, the disease then had progressed at that point, hadn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And even after the diagnosis, like, I was still put on hormonal treatment to suppress it. I was actually told it's like having asthma and not having an inhaler if you're not on the hormonal treatment for symptom management. But what they don't tell you is, even if you're managing the symptoms and they're at bay, the disease is still growing and spreading and running ravage inside. So it's going to get to a point where potentially it affects your fertility. I haven't gone down that road yet. I'm sure that's going to be another awful journey when the time comes. But like that, there's just so many different layers to it that people just don't know enough to do. They think to look at you, oh, so she's fine. They might see me today and I'm walking upright and I look physically okay, and then tomorrow I might need my walker. Now, it's not just with Endofan. I'm waiting on spinal surgery because I have a bad disc. So they're going to take out one of the discs in my back and replace it with an artificial disc.
Oh my God.
So I have a lot of pain due to that and due to fibromyalgia and adenomyosis. Like, there's a lot of comorbidities that come as a result of having untreated endometriosis for so long.
Tell me about the cannabis then. You started using cannabis when you were 15, I think. Did you find out very quickly that this was a huge help to your pain as opposed to the opioids that you might have been on?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't realise the medical connection. Like, I just thought, oh, everybody must feel better when they use this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was unaware of the exact science of the medical benefits.
Oh, I see. So you didn't link it up as such?
No, not until after I was diagnosed. Then I'd say when I was around 23 or so is when I really started looking into the research and going, oh my God, this is why I'm feeling better. This is why I'm able to manage. And that's when I started campaigning and asking doctors, and I just had doors slammed in my face for years. Like, it's only 3 years I have it now, but I've been consuming for 18 years. So for 15 of those years, I was a criminal.
And, you know, we have that medical cannabis access program, for example. So that's legislation there. Why did the consultants and doctors not embrace that for you?
Because the MCAP program is very restrictive and it only includes 3 conditions. And that's not enough. You know, like, for example, one of the conditions in it is spasticity associated with MS. So it's not enough if you have chronic pain with MS. They have to wait till you get to the stage of spasticity, and you have to have exhausted all other treatments before you can go for the MCAP program.
Tell me about getting the licence finally and how that came about, Amy.
So I was referred to a new pain consultant in Croom in County Limerick, and he heard me out. At first, he said, oh, I can't do that. And I said, oh, you actually can. And I explained to him the ins and outs of the MCAP program and the loophole via the ministerial licence. So fair play to him. It was the first time I felt I was heard and listened to. So he took all that on board, did his own research, said, look, I have a couple of ways that we can try and manage pain. He said, if you do this first, maybe then we'll try you away if it doesn't work. So I said, yeah, that's fair enough. I had a couple of different procedures, injections that just didn't help. One actually made things worse. And so eventually then he said, okay, right, we'll try you away. And he sent the application into the Minister for Health, but I honestly expected them to reject it, and I expected another hurdle and another fight. So I was more than surprised when I got it first time round.
Right, but there's an issue with that as well, because seemingly there's several strains of this cannabis, and you're not exactly granted the correct one. Am I right in thinking that, Amy?
You are, but I wouldn't use the word several. I would use hundreds, maybe even thousands of strains.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's thousands upon thousands of different strains that are available to people, for example, in the UK or even in Northern Ireland. So if I lived a couple of miles up the road, I'd have access to a much wider variety of medications, whereas at the moment on the ministerial licence, I've only had access to one for the last 3 years. So it doesn't actually, it helps with nausea, but it exacerbates my nerve pain. So I'm swapping out one symptom for another if I choose to use that. So more often than not, I'm paying for it just to maintain the licence and to maintain being a legally recognised user. But I still have to depend on the black market for products because what's available to me legally just isn't enough.
Now, I know driving is very important to you, for instance, but is there not an issue around that with drug driving, for example?
Not when you're prescribed. When you have a prescription, you're not subject to the same. So, like, they would do the same swab test, but if I tested positive for THC, they're not going to take me to court and criminalise me the way they would a self-medicating patient that hasn't been given the label patient yet.
So I guess you have to continue your fight to have access to other strains or different strains of cannabis. Is that where you are at this point?
Yeah, so the fight is, I suppose, to have more conditions included in the MCAP programme, because that's actually reimbursed. So I feel like the ministerial licence is a social class issue. If you can afford to pay private doctors, avoid lengthy waiting lists, and afford to pay the colossal amount every month, then you'll be okay. But if you're a working class person, maybe on disability allowance, like, it's really, really difficult to try and keep up the prescription every month. I've been lucky now the last 3 years because I was in college and I had my Susie grant, and that really helped. But I graduated, I finished up this year, so I don't have them bursaries, I don't have them grants anymore. So it's a real struggle now, so I have to step up the campaign in terms of trying to get it even covered on the drug payment scheme. Because
it's not covered. It's not covered on the drug payment scheme, even though it's all proper and you've gotten this license. It's still not covered.
No, and when you think, right, 12 months of €250 a month, all of that money has gone to the Netherlands economy because it's been imported. If we were supplying it domestically and charging that amount of money, at least it would be going back into the Irish economy.
Yeah, it's incredible. How is it taken, by the way, medical cannabis? How is it? Is it in tablet form? What is it?
So there are some. They're not even fully like full spectrum cannabis. There are some capsules available, but a lot of them are like extracted forms of it. Whereas what I get is flower. It's bud, and you can consume it in a dry herb vaporizer, or you can roll it, or you can put it in a bong. There's many different ways to consume, and the different ways you consume have different effects. So some days I need a bong because that hits instantly, whereas an edible, say, for example, if you were to put it into butter or eat it, that might take a little bit longer to take effect, and you can't really manage how it's going to impact you. So a lot of it is trial and error, and it's very individual for each patient. There's no one size fits all. We all have our own individual endocannabinoid system. So it's science-based. Like, we have CB1 and CB2 receptors. And when we consume cannabis, the CB1 and CB2 in the cannabis connects with the receptors we have. And it basically reduces the inflammation and just gets the organs working a little bit better.
It's incredible. And as you're talking to me now, are you in severe pain, Amy?
Yeah, I've been vomiting all morning, so I was so nervous that I'd end up vomiting while we were speaking. So Lord. I'm proud of myself that I've managed to keep that at bay for the few minutes.
Oh, well, look, I'll tell you, what can I say about that? Thank you so much for making time for us. I know you have time constraints this morning, and I'll let you go in just a moment. But have you found that people are making contact with you now who are in a similar position to you?
I'm absolutely inundated, Fran. That's why I took it to the Minister for Health, because at this point I just feel like it's too much for one person, and I'm trying to manage my own, pain and personal life and caring for my parents, and I have a lot going on. So I feel like I want the idea of the grassroots organisation is to empower people to be able to speak up for themselves. Let them go directly to the Minister for Health rather than having to come through me. But at the moment, it's the stigma is what they're afraid of. So if we can get a mass national campaign going to reduce the stigma for people who use cannabis for therapeutic purposes, then I really feel like they'll have more confidence to be able to speak up for themselves.
And is that your next step then, to help people to do that?
Well, Fran, that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years since I went to Romania. Like, I've done articles and podcasts and live interviews. I've been on prime time. I've done so much public speaking to try and bust the stigma. And still, I've people fearing that their employment is going to be at risk, or they'll come to the attention of TUSLA, or there's so many reasons that people are afraid to come out of the cannabis closet. And I feel so bad for them, like, because they internalise that stigma and they feel like a bad person, and they internalise the law. Like, the law may be on the police side, but we have integrity on our side. It's only a matter of time before they wake up and follow suit, because it's across Europe now. It's, all across the UK. There's absolutely no reason for us to be getting charged here for personal possession.
Amy, really good to talk to you today, and I wish you well for the future. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you.
Fran. I appreciate that. Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Good morning
Bye-bye.
to you. That's Amy Brown speaking to us speaking to us so eloquently when you consider the stress that she's in. I mean, she's nauseous and she's obviously in extreme pain as well, but telling her story beautifully. I'm sure you'll agree. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of the newspapers this morning, the Irish Times, and they're leading with the story that new accommodation charges for asylum seekers will not be imposed on thousands of people living in direct provision. So the new accommodation charges will not apply to people who have been granted refugee status but remain in state accommodation. Also on the Times today, Jack Power has a piece, a review, in fact, into falsified Garda background checks supplied by a company running emergency housing for vulnerable children in state care. Identified an employee whose record should have prevented them from working with young people, which is very, very worrying indeed. Now, the Irish Times is dominated by a photograph from Hong Kong. A man pictured here at the scene as flames engulf a high-rise apartment building in Tai Po in Hong Kong yesterday, and the photograph, it's like something from a disaster movie. It's an incredible photograph. The very same photograph dominates the front of the Indo today, but their lead story, Bank of Ireland will pilot a new loan product allowing people to trade down to a smaller home. Now, it's similar to bridging finance, and it's likely to appeal to people whose children have left home and who want to downsize. Let's have a look at the Irish Examiner. And the lead story on the Examiner today, Ireland's luck is going to run out eventually when it comes to extreme flooding. And when it happens, the impact will likely be far worse than we have ever experienced before, so says the Examiner today. Also on the front page of the Examiner, a €250 million public-private partnership to build and open 7 new nursing homes by 2024 has yet to house a single resident. And also, and we'll bring this up with Dr. Pat Harold a little later on in the programme, Children's Health Ireland has warned of a significant rise in flu cases in children over the past week, with 650 children attending CHI emergency departments and urgent care centres on Monday alone. And finally, a look at the front page of the Irish Daily Mail, and their lead story, a climate officer at Fáilte Ireland is among 20 people who have launched a judicial review against the Metrolink, despite the tourism body praising the project's green benefits. So that's a NIMBYism at its best there, not in my backyard. We are live from Nina today. We'll take a break and back with more in a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, Liam was on and he said to us, Fran, well-spoken young lady, very clear and very honest, and we're wishing her the very, very best. Good morning, Fran. What age is Amy now? It sounds like a dreadful condition. I thought it was only to do with the menstrual cycle and the womb. No, it's much more profound than that. I know Amy is in her 30s, somewhere in her 30s. Somebody else saying to us this morning, I'm delighted that this lady is going to get the medication that she needs. I'd be a bit worried about driving. Drug driving is illegal because of the effects it has on your driving, and just because you have a prescription doesn't stop the effects it might have on your driving, says one of our listeners. Well, I suppose many of us would be on medication, and I suppose technically it may affect our driving in some way. Earlier on this week, Superintendent Niall O'Connell, based in Clonmel, and Superintendent Eddie Golden joined us in studio to discuss a number of different matters, everything from drugs to community policing and antisocial behaviour, particularly in the town of Clonmel. Well, Councillor Michael Chicken Brennan has spoken to us on all of those issues in the past, and he joins me now. Michael, good morning to you.
Morning, Fran, and good morning to your listeners.
Yeah, good to talk to you today. I think you might have heard that interview, Michael. What did you make of what the superintendent had to say? And I know you had a meeting with him as well.
Yeah, so I have a meeting with him later on today, Fran, at 1 o'clock. And I suppose, look, all the issues that they spoke about come up regularly and daily on the street in Clonmel for me. No matter where I go, people always bring it back to the drug users, the begging, and the antisocial behaviour, and the bullying that goes on, and the intimidation that goes on in the street in Clonmel. Now, listen to Superintendent Niall there and Eddie the other day, and, you know, they did have the understanding that a lot of people maybe properly ringing in and getting this logged into the systems and the whole lot, and there was difficulties, I know, in contacting the Garda stations and the whole lot. But I suppose if we look at just last week and take it from last Thursday, I was in Clonmel. I was going in to meet my brother for a cup of coffee there in a restaurant there on the main street, and I pulled up, got my parking ticket, walked from there down to go to the coffee shop, and in the midst of a 60-yard walk, there was 4 people with cups, 3 sitting on the footpath and 1 standing outside one of the premises with cups that were begging. Now, I don't mind walking by them because, like, some days I'll give them a euro or €2 or more times they get the offer of coming in and joining me for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee if they're allowed in. But it's the intimidation that brings on people. And further on that evening, after I leaving there was one person as well outside the bank machine. And I sat in the Jeep just looking to see the people coming down, and then people were turning away from the bank machine because they didn't feel maybe safe to go to the bank machine. Or, you know, you're taking out maybe it's a Tuesday evening, your waiting is, you don't want to be caught with anything. And
were there people hanging around the ATM machine, Michael?
Hanging around the ATM machines, like, you know, and they will come into the coffee shops and they'll ask for a cup, and they get the cup, like, and they go out to the street and they'll be doing the begging, like, you know. But it's just that, you know, the majority of the individuals that are doing it are the people that are unfortunately in the throes of addiction, and I suppose are trying to find a way of getting money.
And were you satisfied when Superintendent O'Connell said that begging is not illegal? It's not, what they're doing essentially is not illegal. So therefore the guards' hands are tied, I suppose, where that is concerned.
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, the guards' hands are tied in it, but, like, I suppose, Fran, and I would have seen evidence of this on yesterday in the town, outside one shop. There was 3 of them on the ground again, sitting down, 2 on either side of the door and 1 at the start of the coming onto the pavement to the premises. And the minute you see the guard walking up the street, they're up and they're going and they're running and they're ducking and they're hiding. You know, they're popping into the shop. Maybe 2 will go down the laneway. You know, so, like, it does have a presence when we have the guards on the street that this doesn't happen. Now,
how does it affect business, Michael? Sorry for cutting across here. Is it affecting business, do you think?
It is affecting business because people feel that they have to give something, or people feel, look, they don't have it and they don't want to pass them, and they might know them, like, you know what I mean? So that shop isn't getting the person going into that shop. Or, you know, people cross the footpath when they see him outside the shop and they go to the other side of the street. You know, and I suppose, look, I take it then yesterday myself, I went to the parking machine outside the restaurant there, the hub. There was a lady sitting outside it. She was up straight away when I was getting my machine. She said, look, I'm missing money for a bus trip to Dublin tonight. Can you help me? Now, she had 2 or 3 bags of shopping and the whole lot. I had about maybe 7 or 8 cents. I said, look, that won't be much good to you. I said, get you to Dublin and the whole lot, but if you wanted, you can have it. I said, you know, that girl is still around Clonmel this morning, walking the streets. I seen her there, and I leave in Clonmel between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. You know, so, like, and then, like, that is stopping people from walking on the pavement of that side of the street because it is intimidation. And I go back to last Friday, friend. I was coming into town at 3 o'clock down at the Mary Street, and I know the guards spoke about this morning in relation to the pay station. There was 5 individuals there. There was 2 shouting and roaring at each other over a tenner. There was 3 on the ground because there's 3 machines there. So if you were coming in to pay for that machine, at each individual where you either individual pay machine that you're either doing the card or you're putting in your money, they're there. So it's intimidating for the people. So a lot of people with the shouting and roaring stayed back. They didn't go to the card machine. And at that time I decided I think it's time to call the guards. So I did call the guards, and I hung around for 15 minutes. I didn't see anybody come, but they said they'd send a patrol car. And
did you get through to the Gardaí straight away, Michael?
I got through straight away on that occasion. Now, I have had difficulty myself at times in ringing through to the guards in getting the first call maybe or the second call, and it could be the third call the answer, like, you know what I mean? But I did get him through, and like when I got onto the street, I did see the community guard Fiona on the street with a reserve guard there, or a probation guard, and you just see the effect of when they're on the street, they move. Now, if you go back to this time last year, we were in the throes of a general election. We had the police the guards on the street early in November.
Yeah.
Now, listening to Niall yesterday, it's happening next week, and I know and it's very welcome that he is putting in community policing there.
He has a brand new community police unit, which people were delighted to hear about that.
Which will be very welcome, because in 2020, that community policing services was stood down. And the reason for that being stood down at that time, and that was to combat the rise of drug dealers within South Tipperary and Clonmel especially. And I can remember as well, Fran, at one stage there, Tom Finnan was talking about this, and Tom was the GRA representative, and I think he mentioned about 55 guards are in Clonmel at that time to do the ordinary work, but to deal with the extra work that would be needed to deal with the drugs and the dealers and the whole lot. He was saying that the number should be around 90 to be in comparison with the likes of Killarney and Sligo.
So we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go, if that's the case. And like since that day in 2020, there's been you could say that there's been a chronic understaffing of guards in the Clonmel town and district, you know. So that's why I feel the drug dealing has got serious, you know, and like everybody, like, and I know you said it yourself there in relation to speaking yesterday to him, that every dog on the street knows who the drug dealers are. Like, we go back to early this year in April, there was a big search done in April in Clonmel there, you know, from the guards from the Tipperary South engagement area, along with other agencies. There was guns, I won't say guns, but I said there was weapons, there was drugs, there was animal welfare issues there. There was a lot in that, like, and there was goods from stolen properties as well. So, like, as I said, everybody knows where the drugs are coming from. And I know they spoke about getting evidence and gaining evidence and this and that and the whole lot. Last year in the general election, I came across a certain house on the street in Clonmel that was an area where you could get a drug, put your hand in the window, money coming out. You put your money in, you got your drugs back out. I highlighted that, and I've highlighted that one or two times since. I highlighted this year already on your radio again.
Right. And Michael, did you report that to the Gardaí?
I did report that.
No, it's just that one of the things that Niall O'Connell said to me was that we must report, and we must report again and every time.
I did report it, and as late as we'd say, 7 or 8 weeks ago, I saw it happening again when my Jeep broke down, and I explained that on the radio to yourself as well. Like, so, like, I know they have to build up evidence and they have to see where things are happening the whole lot, but like, surely there's enough evidence in a year there or 12 months that we could have stopped what is going on there, like in it, like, you know. So
you'll bring that up, I guess, today as well.
I'll be bringing it up today, yeah. And I find it, like, you know, if you go down to the post office now today, you'll see some of the people that are receiving a social welfare payment. You will see people that are there waiting to meet them coming out. And they're paying maybe for last week's stuff, and they're getting more stuff then for the week ahead. And that's the way it's working, friend, in the town. You know what I mean? And there's no point in not saying anything else about it. That is the way it's happening, and we know who's doing it. Every dog in the street knows who's doing it. And it's time now that we really have to... With the help of the public, let the guards know exactly what's happening.
And you're meeting the superintendent today, so you'll obviously tell him all of this. You'll be discussing all of this with him.
I'll be discussing all of this with him, like, you know what I mean. Another issue that we have, like, when we come out to country, like to Fethard and Killinall, and, you know, Killinall is a different district, but, like, we have a lack of police, and it's very visible, and people are taking advantage of that. And, like, the dealing goes on everywhere now. It's going on in car parks, it's going on in graveyards. I come across it myself, like, you know what I mean, and I do see it. And it's just, and as well, when it comes out to the rural area, we know who's supplying as well. So, like, I would be saying to the people that have maybe somebody that's using drugs in their family and know where they're coming from, that, you know, there's a confidential line there with the guards. If they want to come to me, and I'll bring it back to the super. But, like, it's something that we need. Like, you go back to when Clonmel, back in the early 2000s, friend, it was very bad in Clonmel, like, you know what I mean? And, like, we don't want this to escalate again up to that. And another thing, Fran, I'm going to mention as well is that, you know, and I know that Clonmel has its own town council and the whole lot, and at times maybe we're not letting them, that they're not expressing themselves more of the actual things that are happening in the town, and they're trying to protect the town as well. So I understand where they're coming from. But they need to see what, like, I see it every day of the week. I'm in Clonmel pretty regularly. People coming to me. Like, I met a woman there going into St. Peter's and Paul's the other day, and she was halfway up. I was going in from the other side, from the eastern side, and she was walking back out because there was a fella there begging at the door, and she didn't feel comfortable going in there.
And Michael, tell me this, because as you know, I mean, radio has certain constraints from a legal point of view in terms of what we can do. But will you name names to the superintendent today?
Oh, if he wants to get, if he asks me a name, I will be telling him, but I will have it anyway for him. I can tell him exactly. You know, I have it down to as far as even registration numbers of
right. So,
where.
So you'll be able to give a lot of intelligence today.
I'll give a lot of information and intelligence to him, and is to protect our area and protect our people and protect our children that are growing up, that are coming across the increased easy way of getting drugs, and also the way of getting drugs that you can get them and pay for them in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, like, you know what I mean? And I understand too, friend, that there's one or two people on the street at the minute, and they're not long maybe out of prison and the whole lot, which I know they are, because I only met one of them last night and I was talking to him and the whole lot, and the minute they're back on the street, they're approached by the dealers. So they have no chance. They have no chance whatsoever, because there's either a debt that's owed, or, well, look, they're back out now, we're going to hit them again, and we're going to keep our business going with them, like, you know.
The last time you and I spoke, Michael, Jimmy Delaney came on, my old friend Jimmy Delaney from Cashel, who's a settled traveller. He took issue with a lot of what you had to say. There was a bit of argy-bargy on air, but you committed to holding a meeting with Jimmy and others. Did that happen?
That didn't happen, Fran. I reached out to Jimmy that morning on the airwaves to say, I will sit down and talk to you, I will come and meet you, and I suppose, look, I did see a post a few weeks after where Jimmy had met with Sinn Féin, and they had their own meeting with them and the whole lot. So that was a bit disappointing that he didn't reach out to saying that he was willing to come and talk to me. Now, he did say that day in the radio that he didn't want to talk to me and everything, and that's fine. But, like, I'm delighted now to see that next week we'll have our first meeting in the Tipperary Local Community Safety Partnership, and I will be pursuing that. We will continue with our ban on sulky racing, because you had it mentioned yesterday, the guard said it's illegal, it's dangerous, and it has to be controlled.
Right, well, they didn't quite say it was illegal. They said sulky racing is illegal, but the use of sulkies is perfectly legal on the roads, whether people like that or not, Michael.
Yeah, but I understand that, man, as well, but, like, it has to be in a regulated way, because, like, there's three things that I have problems with the sulky racing, and I've said it on your, it's the danger to other road users. It's the animal welfare issue that comes up with it. And I said it before, it's the two fingers up to every organisation that tried to deal with this, and it hasn't been dealt with before. But I will be pursuing this, friend, and with the help of other people that support me and behind me, like, and it might take us a year, get it to a private member's bill or whatever, but we will be pursuing it.
All right. Would you mind letting us know at some stage the outcome of that meeting with Superintendent O'Connell today? Because we'd love to know how you get on with that, Michael.
I will. And can I just say one thing there as well, just back into, we said last Saturday night, I was coming back from a funeral there in Mullinahorn, and I got a telephone call in relation to a dog that looked like as if it got hit on the bypass, and I came home, and then I got another telephone call, so I said I better go in and have a look at this. So I went in anyway, and when I went in, there was one or two cars pulling up, and it had become a danger on the road because the dog was on the hard shoulder, we say, and people were pulling up to see was it okay and the whole lot. So I pulled up, put on my flash, and looked at the dog, and as I was looking at that dog, and I felt the dog, and the dog was dead and the whole lot, a car pulled up of people, and it told me that there was another dog 100 yards up the road on the other side of the overpass on the bypass. And I went up, and there was a second dog, you know, in the space of 100 yards of each other. And for me, it was hard to tell whether it was actually hit by a car, that both dogs were hit by a car, or both dogs were hit by the one car, or they were just placed there, or the whole lot. I took photos. I'm waiting on kind of results back on what them injuries were to the dogs. And
these were dogs that were roaming the bypass there, is that it?
Yeah, like this was a greyhound and a lutcher, like, you know what I mean? One of them had a kind of a ratchet belt strap around his neck. So, like, that night I called the guards, because it was, to me, it was becoming a traffic danger on the road, because cars were pulling up and they wasn't fully pulling in hard shoulder. So traffic was slowing down on both sides. So I called the guards. said they'd be up. They had got a couple of telephone calls before that, said they'd be up. I waited 2 hours till about 11:15, and we didn't see any guards. So I kind of drove down around the town. I had a good look around to see could I find a guard on the town and the whole lot. I drove to as many places as I could. I went down even around where the walk was up to the mountains where they were using the school down below to see would it be still around there, maybe that they were assisting them. And I didn't see any guard I could contact or anything like that. So I came back up to the dogs. There did a squad car come down the Haywood Road, but it did not come up to where I was parked with the two dogs. So that morning after, I'm in at 7:30, right? And the dogs were still on the road. So look, I said, I need to call the out of hours in the county council here to get those dogs removed. And like, you know, again, I got numerous calls in relation to this about dogs. There was another one up by Raheen on that way as well last weekend, you know. So, like, there is a lot of animal welfare.
Well, I'm sure you'll be talking to the superintendent about it today, and we will follow up on that then. Michael, thank you for your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Okay, fine. Thanks very much.
Good. Bye-bye, you know. And this is Councillor Michael Chicken Brennan speaking to us there. We'll be back in just a moment. We're live from Nina, by the way.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
And we're coming to you from Pearse Street in Nina today. Now, the Every 15-Minute programme is an initiative that is being used in American schools to highlight the dangers of driving under the influence, and videos of the programme have gone viral online with many people very concerned indeed about the whole concept. Well, Leanne is with me. Good morning to you, Leanne.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to see you today. Well, would you just explain this to us? Because I think people are going to be a bit horrified by this. What exactly is it?
Yeah, so it's called the Every 15 Minutes programme, and it was set up in the 90s in America. So the statistics in the 90s highlighted that every 15 minutes someone was affected, killed or injured by a drunk driver. So they set up this programme, and I hadn't heard of it before until the videos went out. But basically it's kind of done differently from school to school, but the particular one that's going viral is that a couple of months in advance they approach some children, so children and their teenagers that would be seen as popular within their community, and they approach their parents.
Sorry, when you say they?
So the students
would
be seen as maybe popular on teams, lots of friends.
Okay.
So they approach the students and their parents and they say, would you like to take part in the programme? So no one else knows at that point, only the parents and the students. So what happens then is, on the week of this mock accident, they go all out. So they actually stage a car crash on the campus of the school. So the students are done up by a mortician, they're done up in makeup, they have cuts, they have bruises, they cover the place in fake blood, they get scrap cars from local junkyards and actually set up a whole accident.
A whole scene.
A whole scene. One of them even went as far as, in one of these scenes, one of the students was meant to have flown out the windscreen into another car. So then when the other students come out of class, they see the guards, they see ambulances, they see a hearse, and they see the students basically mock dead on the campus.
So this is obviously meant to shock them into the reality of what could happen if you drive under the influence. Is that really what it's about?
Yeah, it's meant to kind of show them the effects. So it goes even darker. So the people who are meant to have been killed, the students who are staged to be dead, they're taken away in a hearse. In one incident, one of the students was meant to be paralysed for life from the accident. They're taken away in an ambulance. And then whoever the drunk driver is meant to be, because they designate a fake drunk driver, they're taken away in handcuffs in front of everybody.
And arrested, yeah.
And arrested. Then, obviously the parents are aware of the fact that their children have these roles. Garda cars go to the house of the parents, sometimes with a priest if it's a religious family, knock on the door and say, I'm here to tell you your son or daughter has been killed by a drunk driver.
And are the parents aware that this is a mock-up?
The parents are aware, but they've waited weeks for this.
Okay, right.
So in their head, they don't know what time they're going to get the call, if it's going to be a phone call, if the guards are going to come to their door, if their child is dead in the scene, or if they're the drunk driver.
But the trauma of that, Leanne, must be amazing.
It gets even worse, because then at the end of the week, the parents are expected to come into the school and give a eulogy on the death of their children.
Oh, my God.
And they carry coffins
Oh, stop.
into the school. And the parent has to stand up and say it. As well as that, they make a list of other students who weren't actually in part of the mock-up, but they'll call random names over the speaker in the school. So, Tom, R.I.P. Tom then stands up from the classroom and walks out. So it's meant to signify that every 15 minutes, another person dies.
Yeah, I mean, I get how powerful it is. I mean, when the student stands up and walks out, obviously there's a void left. There's an empty seat there, which would be the case if you lost somebody for real. But what is the reaction to this?
Seems to be very traumatic. I've gone through so many videos online of people who've actually taken part in the programme. All of them have trauma from it. And it's a trauma of the fact that, like, seeing it, experiencing it, seeing at the end of the week the students who are meant to be dead walking back in as ghosts. They walk up to the front of the hall and they say to their parents, every 15 minutes a person dies from drunk drivers. The one thing I never got to tell you was. And they have to say something to their families as if they're dead in front of everybody.
Does it work?
No seems to be the answer.
Oh.
Based on statistics, short term, yes, obviously in the weeks and months that follow, but long term it has no effect on the statistics of drunk drivers.
And did you tell me this morning that one family, in fact, ended up in a situation where, for real, they lost a child or a young person in this?
Yeah, one person shared their experience and said it was very, very traumatic because one of the classmates that was meant to be dead in this scenario actually ended up dying in a car accident weeks later. So the trauma of the family going through it the first time as a mock-up to then actually have to go through it again. Another girl shared a story of how she was actually in a real car crash and had lost family members a couple of weeks before this programme, and they forgot to take her off the list. So they called her in then and was like, you are going to be the designated dead person in this programme, and she just lost her family in a similar scenario.
Yeah, and earlier on when I said to you, who are they, what I meant was, is this a government organisation like we would have the road safety organisation here? Is that similar? Is that what that is?
Yeah, so it was originally set up by cops.
Okay.
So cop organisations, because they saw problems and they thought if they could tackle it with young people, it might stop them later in age. So they seem to be getting some government funding. Very minimum. They pick 1 or 2 schools per state usually per year to do it. So not every school experiences it, and the schools that are doing it, they don't know, and they're far away from each other. So they don't want people to be aware of the fact that this is happening.
Right, but from a legal point of view and a litigation point of view, as you say, if this is so traumatic for students and families, they might even have a legal case following that.
You see, they sign a consent form. So they have to go through meetings beforehand. But while the programme is going on, for the days it's on, they are not allowed their phones and they're not allowed to go home to their family home. They have to, once they are dead in the scenario, they have to go stay in a hotel. And while they're at this hotel, then they do self-reflection, therapy and counselling for the experience that they've gone through.
Right, but you're saying to me it's not really effective, it's just traumatic.
It's very traumatic. Even for the scenes where someone dies in the hospital, they're put in a hospital bed and they film this whole thing. The whole experience has been filmed. So if you go onto YouTube, you can actually look at schools that have done this. But they have to film the whole thing. And you're put in a hospital bed. You have to wheel around in a wheelchair if you're one of the people that were left paralysed. You have to go to a jail if you're the drunk driver. You're in a cell. Like, it's very immersive and it's very traumatic. And I've seen reports now of them doing similar things in some schools for school shooters. So they pick 3 or 4 individuals, young people who are going to be the victims. They have a mock school shooter come in. They have the bangs of the bullets. They have the alarms going off. But none of the other children are aware that it's fake until after.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the trauma on young people there, particularly, what age bracket are we talking about here?
The majority of the time it'd be like our secondary school. Some colleges have taken part, but usually they're trying to target them because they can drive in America at 16.
Yeah, of course.
So they're trying to target that demographic of 15 to 19, really.
The question you're posing then, and I know you'll pose this on social media as well, should we embrace this here? Should we? Yeah,
there's been lots of talk in Ireland about us needing to do something with our roads, especially where it comes to learners and novice drivers and young people on the roads. Are they educated enough? Should we be looking elsewhere? Is our training sufficient? This seems to be the other extreme, the other alternative. And does something like this need to be implemented, or is it too far?
All right. Well, as I say, we'll find out the reaction to that on social media. I know we'll be talking to some of our regular contributors about it later on in the programme as well. In the meantime, Leanne, thanks very much indeed for that. 1800 938 007. We're live from Nina, and news and information is on the way.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today, 1800 938 007. Rosemary was on and she said, Fran, I was in Clonmel shopping. I had a lovely day out on Saturday with coffee. I watched the world go by. I did some more shopping and I got something to eat. Met some lovely people in the shops, and Clonmel is still a lovely place to go. Well, Rosemary, I would say that is certainly the case. I was there, was it Tuesday? I think I went for a bit of a ramble myself. I had lunch in the hub and I went on a bit of a shopping spree as well, and I didn't encounter any hassle. It was just lovely there, but I know there are issues, as I'm sure you'll agree, around the town. Labour Party TD Conor Sheehan told the Dáil that he would not feel comfortable as a gay man walking through Ireland holding the hand of a partner. And Deputy Sheehan raised concerns over the worrying rise in attacks on the LGBTQI plus community, and he joins me online now. Good morning to you, Conor.
Good morning, Fran, and a very good morning to your listeners.
And thanks so much for making time for us this morning. Following the referendum on same-sex marriage, the first country indeed to approve same-sex marriage, we were congratulating ourselves, Conor, on how liberal and progressive we were. Have we gone into reverse gear now, do you think?
Look, I think, we've made enormous strides socially in the last 30 or 40 years. I know this week we were only celebrating the 30th anniversary of the passing of the divorce referendum, which was brought through by a Labour minister at the time, Mervyn Taylor. Indeed, was marriage equality was included in the 2011 programme for government at the behest of the Labour Party. But the issue is that, particularly since I would say 2019, 2020, we have seen a worrying rise in what I would call anti-LGBT and anti-trans sentiment. And it's not just me stating this. This is backed up by surveys that, groups like Kenny, groups like, and different LGBT groups like even Gosh in my own city of Limerick, that will tell you that unfortunately not just Ireland but Europe is becoming more dangerous for LGBT people in the last number of years.
Where is it coming from? I mean, why is this emerging over the last few years, do you think?
Well, I think one of the issues is to do with social media, if I'm honest with you. I think there's been a rise in toxic content of social media. We know that the algorithms in some cases deliberately push this at people, that there's a recommender system there on social media that does push harmful content at people purposefully and deliberately, because social media companies are making money out of this. And I think you only have to look at websites such as X, which used to be Twitter, and you'll see, for example, all the hateful content on that, and an awful lot of it that purports to be from Ireland isn't even from Ireland. They're all fake accounts and bots, and it's something that there's a thing going through the European Commission at the moment. It's known as the Democracy Shield legislation. It's around the regulation of social media. And Michael McGrath, who is the Commissioner for Rule of Law and obviously was Finance Minister in this country, it's actually in his portfolio. So one of the things I've been calling for is for the government to lean on Michael McGrath and the Commission in terms of forcing social media companies to change their algorithms and to turn off the recommender system that pushes hateful content to people.
Yeah, you said a couple of things that I would be very concerned about. You said, Conor, I'm always aware of my own safety, and you said that you would be always very careful and you're quite reserved in your demeanour. This is when you're out and about or when you're on a date or whatever. So you're always conscious of this. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's something that I think most LGBT people are conscious of, and not to over-egg my own situation. I suppose when I made that contribution in the Dáil, I wasn't actually talking about myself. I was trying to paint a picture, because I was talking about, unfortunately, we had a homophobic attack on William Street in Limerick City a number of weeks ago, and it happened at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And there was 2 LGBT people were set upon by a group of youths, who were hassling them and who were yelling homophobic abuse at them. And we also had the situation in Cork where we had 2 drag queens that were very seriously assaulted in the city there, again in an anti-LGBT attack. So the point I was trying to make is that I think we need a strategy to counter hate from government, both hate against LGBT people, but also against migrants, and that's what I was calling for. And I was calling on the Taoiseach, who was in the chair at the time, and the government to take a stronger leadership role in terms of this.
And do you think that this is running in parallel with what we're seeing in some cases where migrants are concerned? Do you think that that's where that it's a kind of a general kind of a thing where there's it's a very divided country now, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of division out there, a lot of strong language and strong that I certainly don't remember from when I was young.
I think, unfortunately, we have become a very divided country, and I think the issue of migration is being used by some politicians and some bad faith actors in order to justify some of the other problems that we have problems around housing, problems around the health service, problems around public services, problems that were there anyway. I mean, I think it was your own local TD, my good friend Alan Kelly, who made a very prescient point in the Dáil the other week when he said, without inward net migration, particularly economic migrants into this country would just stop, literally, because our health service is staffed by so many people who come in here. But again, I think some of it goes back to social media, goes back to the stuff that's pushed at people. But I think, like, government need to tackle this with, for example, a campaign against mis and disinformation. Like, there's a commitment there in the programme for government to have a campaign on migration, and we still haven't had that campaign. And if you even look at what's come out in the last week in relation to migration, like, there's been very little in the way of official and proper announcements and the official publication of legislation. Instead, we've had a drip of this, a drip of that, a drip of the other.
Is that where the accommodation charges are concerned? Is that what you're
It's
referring?
where the accommodation charges are concerned, and it's also in relation to how government proposed to react to what the British Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has done with the asylum changes in the UK. And that this has
of course, that is I'm sure you'll agree, that is a very serious situation. It could have a lot of consequence for this country, what they're deciding to do over there.
It is a very serious situation, and it could have consequences for what we do in this country. But the point I'm trying to make is not that we shouldn't react to it. It's that, the purported reaction from the Irish government shouldn't be dripped out the way it's been dripped out into the papers and into the media. I mean, the Minister for Justice just needs to publish his bill now, and so we can scrutinise it in the Dáil and make sure that we have a system that has checks and balances, but that's also humane and fair.
How do you feel about what appears to be a U-turn by Fine Gael particularly and Fianna Fáil, where immigration is concerned? I mean, some of what is being said now, if it was said on this programme, Conor, a year ago, it would be deemed to be hate speech. It might be deemed to be inappropriate, all of that. What are you making of that, and what does Labour make of that?
The first thing I'd say is I wouldn't go as far as saying that what Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are doing is hate speech, but I would say that it is in many cases
Well,
populism.
I didn't say that, but what I mean is that it would have been deemed to be if we made similar remarks on the programme a year ago.
I think it's a form. I think in some cases, Fran, it's a form of populism, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, what the Taoiseach said in relation to migration after the presidential election is factually untrue. It's factually incorrect. And he said it in order to distract, A, from the presidential election, and B, from some other issues that he was having internally. I think, like, if you look at, for example, the housing crisis has been worsening consistently for the last, I'd say, nearly a decade. But that was before we had increased immigration. If you look at the problems we have in the Midwest with the health service, they were also there before we had increased immigration. And look, I agree that, you know, we need to have a debate on immigration. But number one, we need to stick to the facts. And number two, we need to make sure that we have a system that treats people, first of all, humanely as people, that recognises that we need some immigration and that, you know, recognises that we have international obligations in terms of accommodating people. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, where there is war and where there is famine, you will have increased immigration. And, like, we're not the only country in the world trying to square this circle. And
yeah, well, that's for sure. But I know that from what we hear into the programme here on a daily basis, you know, ordinary people, so-called ordinary people, they're concerned about what's happening, and particularly when they look to the recent stuff in the UK, and they're afraid that, you know, borders will be flooded and one thing and another, and it will exacerbate the issues that we have here around housing, health, education, all of that. So I suppose you can see, Conor, why some people might be concerned about that.
I can see why people would be concerned, and I suppose what we need is to make sure that government stick to the facts. And what the Taoiseach said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't feel was accurate, and I spoke out about that at the time. I mean, we were promised a public information or awareness campaign on migration in the programme for government. That still hasn't happened. I'm concerned slightly by some of this rhetoric that's out there in terms of charging people in iPads for their accommodation. I can see the merits of charging somebody or for somebody making a financial contribution if they're staying in proper accommodation. But if somebody is staying in almost like an army barrack style accommodation, then I would be slightly concerned about charging people for substandard accommodation, if that makes sense.
Well, they've sort of watered it down now to some degree, have they not?
Well, I suppose they leaked it out in the first instance, and then obviously what was actually announced was slightly different to what was leaked, which brings me back to my earlier point that I wish that this stuff wasn't just leaking out into the papers, if that makes sense. I wish they would just come out and come into the Dáil and just lay before us whatever changes they're going to make, and we can deal with them in the totality and not in drips.
Conor, really good to talk to you today, and we appreciate your time. Thanks very much, and good morning to you. Thank you. Bye-bye to you. Now, it's Labour Party TD Conor Sheehan speaking to us there, initially talking to us about that notion that he's not comfortable as a gay man to walk the streets of Limerick, his own city there, but I presume other parts of the country as well, holding hands with a partner. How do you feel about that? 083 311 3311. I'll be back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Tipp Today, coming to you from Pearse Street in Nina. Now, in the last hour of the programme, Leanne introduced us to the Every 15 Minutes programme, which is happening stateside. It's a high-impact educational programme for high school juniors and seniors, focusing on the dangers of drunk and distracted driving. Now, as she described to us, it involves a mock traffic accident, simulated death notification, a final assembly for the entire school community, where the those who were killed, even though it's a makey-uppy thing, but those who were killed will be spoken of. And we're big reaction to this, including Hughie O'Donnell, who's in care and a regular contributor to the programme. Hughie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to all your listeners there on Tipp Today. How are you now?
Sure, we're well, Hughie, and great to talk to you. What do you make of this, Hughie? What do you make of this Every 15 Minutes programme?
I heard you talking to Leanne about it there. Yeah, I did my own little bit of digging as well. And when I first heard it, I knew nothing about it, but when I first heard about it, I thought it was the Andy Warhol saying back in the day, everyone was going to get 15 minutes of fame in their lifetime. Yes. So I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I am, of course, yes.
Yeah, good old Andy. But look, when I went into it, Fran, oh, mother of divine. Yeah, it's related to, let's say, drunk and drugs, let's say, and starting off on the whole process. And let's say from setting up a car accident and having first responders and fire brigade, you've talked about it there, like to coffins. Like, this is fairly traumatic. Like, you see this played out in real time. Like, it's in your face.
It's real graphic, I think.
I consulted a few of my buddies and my 23-year-old daughter and nearly 21-year-old daughter. I said, what do you think of this? Now, no one had ever heard of it. But when you go look and they said, no, I'm afraid now it's OTT. But the subject matter itself is important, but it's the way you can go about it. Like, I've said this now to people in the past. Transition your students, put up a projector or let's say, official video just to drive and operate a car. I'm driving since I was 3 years of age. If Frank Curry had a steering wheel on him, I'd drive you as well. I can drive anything, I can operate anything. But let's say to be mindful of what you're doing, what you're operating, but no, bring it into a classroom, dilute it down, just show them an hour long, let's say, of a video, let's say, have it in a classroom once every 6 months or something like that, so they get a feel for it. But this is the other extreme, and I think personally it's way too much. But now I'm going to offend a lot of people or upset a lot of people. Well, probably upset my cousins and some of my family members in the States. It's typical America. It's OTT. It's in your face. We are so influenced by American culture. And like when it comes to, let's say, even Debs, Christmas time, Halloween, baby showers, and here's another one that's on the way, and I just don't get it, is Elf on the Shelf. Now, I know I'm going off the subject matter there, but like it's all in your face. There's no need for it. Like, why are we even attempting to influence us by this?
Yeah, it is certainly over the top, and that's for sure. What really concerns me is that it appears that some people are traumatised by this experience, Hughie, and you can understand why, because it's so graphic.
Yeah, look, there's ways and means. Like, I don't know. As I said, it's America. Like, it's in your face, let's say, and we don't do things by half. Look at their president. Let's say he's a character. He's in your face, and they go to him for media bites. But in relation to, let's say, this particular item, this particular 15 minutes, there's ways and means, and looking at that and watching one or two of the pieces that I saw on TikTok, some of the people that were involved and contributing, they were saying to themselves, what did I actually sign up for? Because it's so new. It's so new. Like, there is ways. Like, there is a message. There is a message, and it's the way you portray the message. You send out a message, and the way you go about it. But it's too much. I'm not prepared for that. I wouldn't expect if one of my children, let's say I have a 12-year-old daughter as well, if they were going about that in school, get me to sign a piece of paper. I say, sorry, no, we're not signing up for this. Absolutely not. I'm not putting my child through that.
Or yourself, Hughie, because part of this is that you'll get the knock on the door from the police, and what will be simulated there is, the notification that a child has been killed in an accident. I mean, even if you knew it was sort of made up, I'm sure there's trauma to that.
Yeah, no, it would. No one wants that. No one wants that. No one wants to ever or pick up the phone or someone to call to your door and say, look, we have a bit of bad news. No. I don't get it. I know Leanne was saying they originated in America. There's the Canada influenced this a bit as well. If you look into it, but like I just don't get. Look, I keep coming back to the subject matter is important, but it's the way and means you roll it out. It's in your face, like it's. I don't know. If it gets to you morally and everything as well, like should we be actually doing that? Should we taking people like that? They're not. I wouldn't say they're not professional actors. Like they go to, we'll pick you. Like they're not. I don't think they're prepared. You couldn't be prepared for that. Like going through a courtroom, sending people to jail, to prison, having media involved and everything. It's a circus. It's an absolute circus.
And still, when you look at our own roads over the last week or 10 days, Hughie, I mean, there's been carnage out there. I don't know how many people as a total have been killed over the last while. But we need to do something. And you think it's all about education in the school, do you?
Oh, God, it is. Yeah, that's where you nurture it. Like, I'm fully convinced, and this is just Hughie doing Hughie things. Yeah. Once a moment a child is conceived, up to 12 years of age, you are so important to them as a father figure. You are so important to that child. Once they hit 12, 13, 14, they know it all. They say, sure, yeah. They'll just say yeah to you. They won't question things. But when it comes to the classroom, at that 14, 15 years of age, it kicks on a bit. Educate them in the classroom. You even put them on go-karts or something like that. I know it sounds ridiculous. Go in around the yard. Give way here. Give way there. Stop there. Yield there. Get out and have a look at your surroundings. Spend an hour doing it. I can't... I'm sure there probably is something there. I didn't go that far researching it, but I'm sure there's something there that you can put on a television, on a screen, in a classroom. You don't even have to have a representative there. Lads, put down your copybooks, put down your pens, your pen news. Look at that screen. You don't have to have this big rigmarole, but that's where you catch it. That's where you nip it in the bud. Educate the children and show them and say these are the do's, these are the don'ts when it comes to drugs, when it comes to alcohol, across the board, and we'll try and send you on the right path.
But how do you combat that first feeling, and particularly with young lads, and it largely is young lads, when they get behind the wheel of a car for the first time and they feel the accelerator and they're exhilarated themselves by the feel of the engine and all of that, and the whole macho thing is, and the testosterone, it's very hard to combat that, Hughie.
Yeah, listen, you're talking to the original boy racer.
Yeah, me too.
Everyone knows Hughie O'Donnell. I am the original boy racer. Some of the stuff I had over the years, I had amazing. I was blessed. I'm not going to go into the makes and models. I had some pieces of stuff. I really did. And I was the original boy. I am the original boy racer, and I love it. I love the petrol. I love the smell.
Yeah, me too.
I love all that. I've gone to Killarney many times, international rallies, the lakes. I've gone to Galway international rallies. I get that. I'm still being educated by drifting. But that's being done very well now as well. Let's say it's set up accordingly. And even when you go to these rallies as well, they'll have, let's say, a farmer's yard, let's say a silage pit, and you work away there, lads. You take it off the road. But no, I've been very lucky. I have a clean licence. I've done silly things. I've done stupid things. I'm so lucky. I was born and reared in a time before mobile phones and social media. But I do understand, because my daughters are going out with boyfriends and they're into their cars and they're into their stuff.
Yeah.
They seem to have a hell of a lot more than I do. But yeah, look, and when lads get together, it's kind of bravado and stuff. Mine's nice and yours and stuff like that, and I'd like that and everything as well. It's Christmas time. But what I do like about it, and this is what I do like about it, they'll spend their last penny on it. And they're not up to any other nonsense, if you get me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're not drinking. They're obsessed with their cars, There
you go. And they're not doing other devilment. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a couple of lads here over the years, and they've come to the front door. I'm a dad, and I think I'm allowed. I'll check out their CV. Yeah. I'll ask a few questions. I'll do a background check. I think I'm allowed. I think every parent will do it. Who's going out with my daughter? And I haven't had a conversation. I said, sorry there now, Jack. Sorry there, Joe. I'm putting up my stars here now. I'm taking one to the team. They're not welcome back. But no, they're into their look. They're into their gym.
Of course, yeah. But still,
that's brilliant.
But still, we have that figure for 2025. So far, 158 people have been killed on Irish roads, up to November of this year. I mean, that's that's not even counting what has been happening, I guess, over the last one.
It's frightening.
It's frightening, isn't it?
And may God be good to all of them and all their families and their friends. I see that myself in Clonmel there the last couple of years, and It's actually, look, it's gut wrenching, actually. It is
That's for sure. On a much happier note, before you go, I know you wanted to encourage people to shop local, Huey. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Look, lads and lassies, if you're listening to me here, Huey O'Donnell here on Tipp FM, I am encouraging you, I'm imploring you, will you please go to your local butcher, your baker, your candlestick maker, go to your local jewellers, go to your local chemist, go to your local menswear, your ladieswear, shop local, spend a few pounds, go get a voucher. I know you have to do the big shop in certain places. That's all right. I know you have to do a bit of online. But will you spend a few extra pounds, shop local, and give the lads a dig out? Look, it's the time of year. Give back, because you know what? You might need that local person. If you're doing a draw and you're looking for a bit of sponsorship, when you go to these big boys and big girls, they won't be there because you're only a number in their book. But if you shop local, that lad or lassie that was behind that counter, they'll appreciate you a hell of a lot more.
Well said. Huey, I always look forward to the chat. Thanks very much for coming on with me. Thank you.
Take care, God bless, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Huey. That's Huey O'Donnell there from Care. We're in Nina. We'll take a break, back with more.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
Welcome back to Tipp Today live from Nina. Our GP, Dr. Pat Harold, is with me. Pat, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fred.
And good to see you today. We're going to talk about weight loss and the sort of weight loss drugs and all of that in just a few moments' time. But do you want to just get in on that conversation around road carnage and that every 15-minute programme?
I didn't hear about it till Leanne told me about it. Leanne is great for keeping me up to date and all kinds of things I didn't know existed, you know.
Too, yeah.
So I don't know. You know what I always thought, like, surely in this day and age you could automate a lot of stuff. Like, would it be that difficult? If I stand in the street, I see about 4 out of every 5 people going by have a mobile phone in their hands. And would it be possible to
while driving, you mean?
While driving, up and down the streets, they're all going. If you stand at a crossroads, it's incredible. If you just had some sort of an automated thing that would just click it, photograph it, some kind of CTV camera, and put them all off the road for a month, every time. And then they'd surely buy a yoki that you can stick a magnet onto it. And it's very easy now. You can talk to your phone. Without actually having to have it in your hand.
Yeah, it's interesting because we hear about drink driving and drug driving, but you think distraction. You think
distraction,
is a huge
phones, all that kind of stuff. You know, there's and cars are so much more powerful. But I thought we'd just get into. I was out in a driving lesson last night with my daughter Laura, and we came upon a tip. And we could just see going by slowly, nobody hurt, anything like that. But I asked her, when she's doing the rules of the road and everything, do they tell you what to do when you come upon a car crash? And no, apparently. So I'll just tell you the quick version of it, because in the north of Ireland, I used to drive what was called the cardiac car. You go out to arrests and not
heart attacks
and things. But we invariably got called to car crashes and stuff like that. So I'd be flaking around in this 4-wheel drive Subaru. And first thing is the red triangle. You stop well away from the car crash, especially in a bend or something. Put on your flashers, and in your boot there'll be a red triangle. Everybody has one, or you can put up the boot in some cars, and then hopefully somebody else goes up the other end of the road, and ideally someone with a torch. Ring emergency services. If somebody is injured, don't try to move them, and especially because of the neck damages and that kind of thing. And if the engine is running, turn off the keys, and then when the emergency services come, don't get in the way.
Right.
But that's it in a nutshell. Red triangle, flashing light, secure the scene is the main thing.
It's amazing it's not part of the training, isn't it?
Well, unless she didn't do that bit yet, but she covered it very... But most people don't know those simple things.
No.
But if you had everybody's running around and looking, but you want to secure the scene, because I once saw a pile-up, a car came around and clashed, and another one, and another one, and another one. At this stage I jumped over the hedge. It was the best jump I ever did, I'd say. But it was if you secure the seam. So there you go. That's my take on it.
Very interesting indeed. Well, you're going to talk to us about weight loss and stigma and all of this.
Well, yeah, it's so trendy at the moment, and I see yesterday Donald Trump was not that I want to be giving him any more ammunition.
Your favourite person in the whole wide world.
Stop.
Yes.
It just keeps going, doesn't it? But he was pardoning the turkey, which was supposed to be a nice little ceremony, and he managed to call, I think it was the governor of Minnesota or somewhere, a fat slob. And then there was the Miss Piggy thing a few days before.
Journalist, yeah.
And, I mean, Jesus, he's not exactly Vogue Williams himself, but but there's a few things. There's weight bias. Weight bias is there's explicit. Now that's explicit with Trump telling people that there's words, but there's implicit. There's the unconscious negative attitudes we all have, and we don't really mean it. And then, but the worst is the internalised, self-directed, and people just who are overweight feel shame about it, they feel bad about it, they're lacking in self-confidence. And actually one of the worst things you can do, and it's something otherwise intelligent people do, is fat shame people. Say like, you shouldn't have this and all that, and you'd break the furniture and sit, and you couldn't fit in my car and all this kind of stuff.
I know, yeah.
That's the implicit bias, but that all goes in. And one thing about doctors is we all think, should we bring up the subject? Because now in the old days, doctors were terrible for it, right. And they used to start to go, oh yeah, and I'm afraid to say surgeons still do it, especially surgeons, not only surgeons, but they go away and lose 3 stone and come back to me. And then they say this awful thing called calories in, calories out, which is rubbish, because there's a whole multitude of factors involved in weight and weight gain, and there's hereditary. And don't forget the Irish are all sort of famine survivors, but you can see it in people like South Sea Islanders and things. If they get any kind of a Western diet, they pile it on, and others don't, like the Maasai warriors and people. There's a whole thing in your brain. There's your microbiome, the gut, the microbiology of your gut. It's a lot, and there is a thing called the set point. If you've ever heard the set point, Fran, basically, and this is the reason why you should try not to stuff your kids full of food. The set point is the heaviest weight you've ever been, and your body keeps trying to return you to that. That's the hypothesis. Wow. So if you were 16 stone one time and you're now 10, the body remembers, and it will try to regulate you back to that. Well,
that explains what happens after dieting, this yo-yo thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the yo-yo can... Now, all diets will work to an extent, provided they're some way sort of healthy. But you can change your mindset, and it's very important too. They find anyone who goes on Mounjaro, Ozempic, anything like that. Not all, but most of them, when they stop it, put the weight back on gradually. So the thing is, they're only out a few years really. So you're which is very short in medical terms. So it's very hard to say, if you're on it, are you on it for life? But if you're on one of these injection things, it's very important to keep up your muscle mass, because if you lose 3 pounds, you lose 1 pound of muscle. So, and you need the muscle mass. So it's very important to do weight-bearing exercise. Have weights, literally weights, and push-ups and all that kind of stuff, just to increase it. And ideally, if you start on one of these, you will relish being fit. And you'll run around and you'll get active and you'll take up sport and you'll eat well and everything. Yeah. And hopefully you get into the habit of that, because it'll take the weight.
Are they a good thing as far as you're concerned, Pat?
They can be, for the right people. Like there's 2 absolute no-nos. One is if you have a hypersensitivity reaction. The other is if you have a family history or a personal history of medullary cancer. And there's a kind of a very rare group who have neuroendocrine tumours. But outside that, they're fine. But they're not something you buy out in a car park in Limerick. Because, like, if you've diabetic retinopathy, just for an example, it can make it much worse when you start them. So Well, you know, a doctor would be aware of that.
So, sorry, that affects your vision, does it?
That affects
is that
your
what
vision.
You mean by that?
This is for the ones with diabetes.
Yes.
But I just use this as an example.
Yeah.
Gallstones and pancreatitis, they're all things that can happen. And the person selling them out the car window in Limerick or from Facebook in Northern Ireland. I'll always pick on Limerick. Limerick and Trump. The two of them together. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, if you do that, they don't know this sort of thing, and you need to monitor it and keep an eye and just do the thing. I know I was at a doctor's meeting about this not so long ago, and one of them was very nice. She said that when she weighs people, she gets them to step up on the scales backwards, so they
won't see it.
Yeah, if they're feeling a bit appalled about it. But of the people who come in, 67% of people expect the doctor to discuss the weight and kind of hoping they will, and only 3% get hurt. And so if somebody comes in, and supposing they come in for, I don't know, ingrown toenail or something, and you say, like, do you want to discuss your weight or talk about it? You know, we ask permission, and it might be. But the whole shame and guilt is what gets me. You know, somebody says, "Oh God, I ate a cream bun yesterday. I shouldn't," and
but you see, I have you to be careful as well, Pat, about giving people like me who might have a few extra pounds, giving us a get out of jail free card, because sometimes we have to shake ourselves up and say, "Hold on now a moment," you know.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a doctor, and she says, my husband bet Manjaro. He said he didn't feel like it, but he still had the fry every morning, and he didn't want them, but he still went and had 8 pints every night. Well, I doubt he's did quite as much as...
Yes.
But she said he didn't lose a pound on it, but he was thick about it, you know.
Was he?
Yeah, he's an engineer, like he went at it like a bullet a gate. Apparently a lot of people who start these things just say the food noise is gone, and they have to remind themselves to eat. You know,
I tried it for a while. It takes a lot. You see, if a lot of the joy you get out of life involves fine food, it kills a lot of that, which is a big chunk out of your life. You know, if you enjoy your takeaway or going out for a meal and stuff, you know.
It is, and you know, people who get the gastric surgery, they often. There's a whole thing about when you get you don't. They often change their food addiction, and they become compulsive gamblers or alcoholics.
So something replaces it.
Or shoplifting.
Wow!
Because they need to get a kick somewhere, and you don't get the kick from food anymore, so you get it from whatever.
Wow. And this plays into what you were saying earlier on, that there's so much complexity around why people are obese or overweight and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, the terms you use are, you can say excess or unhealthy weight. You've been on the radio now, you should know this. Pat Kenny regularly runs into trouble for calling people...
Does he?
Oh God, he had a big row with Dawn French. He slagged her off in public, and
did he?
He slagged the wrong woman. He slagged the wrong woman. I tell you, she put him in his box. But you can say patient living with obesity, severe obesity, eating habits and physical activity, but you do not use obese or fat. So if Donald Trump is listening, you don't say that. Or an obese patient or morbidly obese, diet, big bone, chunky, hefty, they're all gone. And you know, why should people have to put up with a stigma anyway? You know,
I suppose.
I mean,
even though men are worse, I think men say the most unbelievable. Like Johnny Luby, some of the stuff he says to me, like, it's my solicitor I should be making contact with after.
Well, that's between you and Johnny Luby.
No, but I mean, he's saying about, like, if I put on a few pounds, he'll point it out to the entire listenership, you know.
Yeah, and that's not good for him.
No, I mean, it's a bit of crack. And I laugh it off. But still, at the end of the day, you're going home and thinking, maybe.
Yeah, I have several friends who I'm out with, and I see them, like, for instance, get a cup of tea and they put in 3 spoons of sugar, and, you know, the Lucasade on the road, like, they put into the shop. I mean, there was a time when you went into a petrol station, it sold petrol, and it might sell cigarettes, and now you can buy wine,
oh my God,
you can buy donuts, you can buy chips, you can buy whatever, you know, and it's...
the temptation is there.
Yeah, and processed foods. We're hardwired for processed foods. I mean, it's a mixture of...
Why are we, Pat?
Well, they found with rats that if you give them salty food, they get sick of it. If you give them sweet food, they get sick of it. And if you give them fat food, but if you give them salty, fat, sweet food, they get completely addicted.
In other words, processed food.
In other words, a burger, or whatever, and ultra-processed foods. And years ago we used to say, the people in Tipperary were all hypothyroid because there was no iodine, because they grew their own spuds in the back garden and there was no iodine in the soil. Now your spuds come from anywhere, but your spuds are probably fried 6 times. They mightn't even be potatoes. They could be some mushed up crap, and the more of that you take, and those energy drinks, people just don't need them. They're just not good for you.
Yeah, they are so addictive, really, really addictive. Tell me about the likes of Ozempic and whatever the other ones are, and when they're prescribed for diabetes, do they help diabetes, or is it a case that the weight loss helps diabetes? Sorry,
they help
convoluted.
They
but
help
you know what I mean.
diabetes. There's a whole thing when the food goes into your stomach and then it goes into your the next bit. You secrete a hormone, and that tells you you're full, right? That's why they're called SGLP2, but they inhibit that sort of a thing. And some people with genetic conditions just don't know they're full. They just eat and eat and eat and eat. And some dogs, I think golden retrievers, don't have one. So they will eat till whatever you give them, And they're hungry all the time. But the body doesn't tell them, you've got sort of 20 minutes for you to tell you're full. So most people don't even, and that's one of the reasons why if you're eating, scrolling on the phone or something, you're full, but you haven't noticed.
Yes.
So that mindfulness eating is a great way to do it. You do it and you think, how am I now? Let do me,
Yeah.
But what was the question again? Right? Yeah.
No, I was just asking you whether the drugs we're talking about, whether they're specifically for diabetes.
It works in a multitude of ways, because if you reduce your adipose tissue, that's the fat tissue, that in itself produces hormones and things that make you hungry. Okay. So the heavier you are, it kind of works on itself. So if you lose that, and then it tells you when you're full, and it works, and they originally were diabetes drugs anyway. So it's all three. They work very well.
Can they reverse diabetes? Type 2 I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, anything will reverse it, but it's still it's a bit like virginity. Once you've lost it, you've lost it. Once you're diagnosed diabetes, you have it. But your HbA1c, your average blood sugar, can be below 42.
Okay.
So you really don't have it anymore on the medication. And some people, if they lose weight and keep it off, and they can stop the medication, but they always have the potential to get back to it.
Can you prescribe it for type 1 diabetes?
They do, but that's an expert thing. We GPs don't really get into type 1s. They have to be looked after by
endocrinologist, is it?
That's for the endocrinologist, the people on insulin. Now, some type 2s are on a little bit of insulin, but you're a real insulin-dependent diabetic. And I've seen them on it, but I wouldn't get involved. And it's definitely, if you have type 1 diabetes, geez, you wouldn't be buying it out of the car window in
Limerick. Apologies to all of our many listeners in Limerick. Indeed. Pat, it's always a pleasure.
Take care, Pat.
Thanks very much.
And be careful of Johnny Luby now. You have an answer for him.
I'll tell him you said.
I will.
Pat Harold said.
He doesn't listen to me either. It doesn't make any difference.
Pat, thanks very much indeed. Our GP, Dr. Pat Harold, with us this morning. We are live from Nina, and news and information is on the way.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tipp Today. Now, earlier on, I spoke to... we spoke about the whole business of people feeling unsafe in the country if they're gay, and they certainly wouldn't feel safe to hold their partner's hand as they walk the streets of our towns and villages. And I was speaking to the Labour TD Conor Sheehan about this, and just to bring you some of that reaction. Patrick was on to say the Irish people have supported LGBTQ plus in the right to marry. A large part of what is being talked about is LGBTQ plus pushing too hard. They're always demanding more and more rights, and they never seem to be happy. They now have the same civil rights as any other citizen: marriage, widowers' rights, adoption, etc., says Patrick. Patrick is a great friend to the show, and I know that he won't mind me pointing out that Patrick himself is a gay man, so that's the dynamic there, and that's the angle he's coming at the subject from. Fran, I, along with most people, don't feel safe walking, and it has nothing to do with my sexuality. Dave emailed us about this. And Dave says, unfortunately, I wouldn't feel safe holding the hand of my partner either, for fear it would draw attention to us and spur a homophobic attack. Dave goes on to say there's an increase in homophobic attacks of all descriptions. It's a worrying trend, especially after all the progress that we have made in this country. Now, lots more in on that, so it's something I'm sure we will go back to. Now, my great friend Eamon O'Dwyer of Down Your Way fame, he was in Care for the launch of local businessman Noel O'Donnell's much anticipated new book, and we're going to hear a little from Down Your Way right now. You can hear it, of course, in its entirety this coming Saturday morning.
Absolutely a fantastic occasion for Noel O'Donnell. The McCarthy's of Ballyhenry. He's just about to launch this book. Noel, congratulations and well done, and I hope the book really goes well for you.
Thank you very much, and I hope it does. I really hope it does. I hope people enjoy it. I hope they enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it, and it probably took a long time to write. I started it back in 2018, and then I stopped for a while because I built this garage here, this petrol station, and then towards the end of last year, a guy was launching a book, Shawnee Lundigan, and he had a book launch, and I went down to the book launch, and one of the girls that was there at his book launch said, I know you're writing a book, and she said, how much have you done, or have you anything done? And I said, I have a bit done, I said, and I said, she said, well, I send it to her, and I said I would. And her name is Annette Condon, and Annette is just a fantastic person, and once she got on board, she got everything out of me, and so I sent her on half the book, and she rang me back after about 3 weeks, and she said, no, this is a page turner. I'd love, she said, if you get it finished. And at that stage, my wife was actually sick at the time, and I was at home a lot, and I had started back into it again. And I said to her, you're not going to believe that I have the half that you've done, and I have that you've got, and I've also got half of the next half done, and I know the finish. And I said, I'm really working on it, and I will get it done. So I did get it done, and I sent it to her after about another 2 months or 3 months, and she said, you should publish this. And I said, I don't know nothing about published books. But when I sent it to her, there was no paragraphs, there was no full stops, there was no anything. So she actually edited it all for me, and done a fantastic job on it. And then she said, please get it published. And I said, I don't know. I said, what do you do? And she said, let's self-publish. And I knew nothing about this, so she actually helped me, and I actually helped her, I suppose, at the finish, because she's so good at what she was doing. And she got it printed by a crowd called Letter Tech down in Cork, who had already done a book for the Daughters of Denise Geek. So she knew this company was good and that they would do the book for me. So they actually, she got it sent off to a proofer then, and got it proofed, and got it. So we said we go ahead with the printing, and got it printed.
The McCarthy's of Ballyhenry. I know Tipperary fairly well. Nearly every parish, every village, every townsland. I never came across Ballyhenry.
No, it's just a fictitious name that I made up, because there's Ballypatrick, there's Ballymorris, there's everything, Ballyluby, Ballycarron, Bally everything. So I just made up this name of Ballyhenry just to have something different. Now, there is a Ballyhenry here in Care, and I didn't want to get mixed up with that either. And McCarthy's is an Irish name, and I could have picked O'Donnell, I could have picked Burke, Dwyer, any name at all, because in this book, as you read it, this probably happened, or people know of somebody that this happened to throughout the years going back. I based it in 1935, and Artane, all those places, there's loads of them, Letterbrick, loads of them all over the country, Letterfrack, and even Clonmel here we have loads of them, and they were called Bostrels, and we were always led to believe that they were for bowl boys. And I mean, like, how could a boy be bold at 7 years of age? Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you think back on it, a lot of these people were born out of wedlock, or maybe they were caught for stealing something, or their parents couldn't look after them, or for different reasons they ended up in these places. And in Artane, there was up to 1,000 children there at any one time. And this is a very, very sad reflection on the Irish Church and all that sort of thing. And so it's a story that I went through then, and I studied it all on the internet and YouTube. I found out an awful lot of stories, and I used their stories in the book. And different people had different stories in them, and they were horrific stories. But then I met up so the guy that James in the book, he had six brothers, and he wanted to look after them and keep them together and look after them as much as he can. When they were put into Artane, he didn't realise how such an awful place it was, and then he had to plan his escape. And he escaped, and he escaped with the 6 boys, and what they had to live through after they escaped as well, and try and get back down to Ballyhenry.
So it's all fictitious for the most part, but it's real as well.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of the stories are very, very real, very, very real, and very daunting. And I found them hard to research because they were so crude and so. But these things did happen. These things did happen, and they are only children, and children are fierce and important. We all know. Nobody'd like to see our child of 7 going in there or been there. An awful lot of them are kept there until 18 and 20 years of age, and an awful lot of them never came out of it. And nobody knows what happened to them. Hopefully now people will start to find out what happened a lot there.
And many congratulations to Noel O'Donnell there on the release of that book. I can't wait to read it. And well done to Noel, who's an extremely busy man. I don't know where he got time to write the book, but well done to him. Many congratulations indeed. Mick was on to us from Clonmel. He said, Fran, a consultant asked me one time what was the lightest weight I ever was. I told him 8 pounds. Thankfully, he had a sense of humour. Well, fair play indeed. Some gigs. It's very busy for gigs and concerts this coming Sunday night. A standout evening of music is planned for the Cathedral of the Assumption in Thurles this coming Sunday night. The Cathedral Choir joins forces with the Clonmel Concert Band and a selection of special guests for a gala concert there in aid of the ongoing re-roofing project, and that performance kicks off at 7:30. Donations on the night. Okay, so you won't be able to get tickets ahead of time for this. Turn up, and it's based on donations, and of course those donations going directly to the re-roofing project. Also on Sunday night there's another fundraiser at St Mary's in Portrue, and the special guest there is Michael English, and Christmas Church concert, and it should be very special indeed. And that's kicking off at 7 o'clock, and you can get your tickets from McLaughlin's Hardware, or you can call Gus. And if you want to call Gus, it's 083 815 4197. And if you'd prefer to go dancing, myself and Muriel will be at the Round Hill Bar on the old Limerick-Nina Road there. If you want to drop by, we'd love to say hello to you as well. Now, a great friend to the show over the years is the author and documentary maker Nicholas Ryan Purcell, and he is back with a brilliant new documentary, and he joins me online. Good morning to you, Nick.
Good morning, friend, and thank you once again for having me on the show, but also thanks to Alison and Leanne.
Well, you're very welcome, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. The new documentary, it's called Lockmore to the Front. Will you tell us about it, Nick?
The documentary is about the birth, decline and revival of a community that spans over 1,000 years, from 1220 up to the present day. And it includes my ancestor Nicholas Purcell, who's the same name as me, having fought in the siege of Limerick. But my ancestors have been in Lockmore since 1220, and the whole idea of the documentary idea began when my sister Joanna brought me to the cottage tea rooms in Lockmore village, and Catherine Purcell Maher wanted me to do something on the history of Lochmore, and that's where the idea began, and that was in March 2024.
It's a very rich history in that area, and it's resulted in this 95-minute documentary. Is that correct, Nick?
That is correct. The documentary runs for 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I have been very humbled by all of the audiences who have gone. And one thing I'm absolutely amazed by is that some of my own work colleagues have gone. In fact, one of my work colleagues, Michelle, have set me up for the interview this morning to get me ready. But I could not have done this documentary film without the people of Lochmore, Castleiney, but also my mother, Dorothy, and historian Tom Gallagher, who's from Thurles. And in fact, it was Tom Gallagher who told me about my ancestral links to Thurles Town, to Nina, to Kilkenny, to Moycarkey, and also Holy Cross Abbey and Limerick City.
Well, it's fantastic that through the documentary you found out all this about your own history. I presume there were challenges along the way in the making of the documentary, Nick?
There certainly were. I remember every time when a car passed by the camera, I was halfway during a take, and then suddenly I'd have to stop and do the whole take all over again, because a passing car on a road is like being beside a runway at an airport.
Yes.
It completely drowns out the person's voice. And also, I remember when I was filming in Lochmore Castle, there was this very annoying bird that kept squeaking every time I wanted to speak. And I find that so funny to have that in the outtakes.
Ah, that's brilliant. Yeah, and you have had a screening so far, I understand, Nick.
That is correct. In fact, last Wednesday I had a screening in Omniplex Nina, and one thing I was amazed was that 3 of my former teachers from Nina CBS Secondary came to the show. And who actually wanted the film shown in Nina was Councillor JP O'Mara. So I have to give credit to JP for that. I've also screened it in IMC Cinema Thurles, where it's screening again next Monday. I've also had a screening in IMC Kilkenny, and I've also had a screening in the Source Art Centre in Thurles, and I've also had other screenings as well. So I'm very grateful to the people who have come to these shows, including my work colleagues. Now, when I was making the documentary film, I was very lucky to have had Jimmy and Sinead McGrath, who actually own the castle, and it's amazing. I always feel that to cross land, to go up to a building, you always need permission, and they always gave me the permission to go up to the castle whenever I wanted in Lochmore.
That's very generous indeed. So are we talking about the 1st of December, that extra screening in Thurles then, is that?
That is correct. Yeah. IMC Cinemas gave me a second show in the cinema in Thurles, that's inside the shopping centre, on Monday night, the 1st of December at 8 o'clock.
Now, can you get tickets ahead of that, or is that almost sold out even at this stage, Nick?
You can actually get tickets on the website www.imc.ie. And when you go into the website, you search for Thurles, and then you bring up the 1st of December.
Right.
And that's where you can get tickets.
Very good. It's called Lockmore to the Front. I can't wait to see it, Nick. I'm really looking forward to that. And many, many congratulations to you on this. I presume you'll enter this into international competitions, will you?
Yes. Can you believe it? I have actually since got news that the documentary got nominated for a film festival in London in the editing category for a documentary feature. Now, I think that happens the same day as my show in Thurles. But obviously, it's a great honour, and also, it really has been a wonderful journey making this documentary film, because I have to thank all the audiences that have gone to see the film, and also to thank all the people who let me come up to them, telling them about the show.
Well, why wouldn't they embrace you, and why wouldn't they be congratulating you as well? Because it's well deserved, Nick, and much more success to you.
And I just also want to thank Mary Fogarty in the tea rooms in Lockmore, because Mary Fogarty and Catherine Purcell-Maher in Lockmore have come to nearly every show that I've had on.
All right, Nick, we wish you the very, very best, and particularly with the upcoming show on Monday night as well. Congrats, Nick. Look after yourself, and thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you, Garmina Mahagut. That's the great Nicholas Ryan Purcell there, author, documentary maker, film maker, and of course also wonderfully speaks on the whole difficult subject of autism and gives us an indication of what it's like to live with being autistic, and he's just a tremendous guy and he's one of our favourite people. 1800 938 007. We'll take a break and we're back with more from Nina in just a tad.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Tip Today. Now I'm delighted to be joined by our bushcraft guru and our survivalist expert, Tom Bond, is with me. Good morning to you, Tom.
Good morning, Fran, and thank you for having me here once again.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, indeed. And you know what I love about our chats? We don't put an awful lot of time into planning.
There's not. It's like something may pop up and it just becomes a topic.
Absolutely.
And develop on it.
And you know, one of the things I had down here as a note, though, was that we might talk about, using nature to reconnect with your inner child in some way. And you said a lovely thing about that. You said, don't be afraid to be silly.
No. And it's actually just something that popped into my mind recently. And all I thought was, don't be afraid to be silly. Like, it might feel silly to you, but it can also feel good to you.
Yeah.
To just let loose.
To be playful.
Playful.
I suppose. Is that it? Yeah.
And if you want to kick the leaves, splash in the water, do the silly things. Don't be afraid.
And do you find when you bring people out on your various odysseys, do they do that kind of thing? Do they revert back to the playful child?
I think I actually sort of tried to work it in a way to get them back to the silly, as you may call it. And even if it's, remember before, like, you might be catching raindrops in your hand and build a little puddle, that type of stuff. But instead of being serious and everything focused on being perfect, just be silly. Don't be afraid of it.
And what is the result of that, Tom? What do you see in human beings when they do that, when they revert back like that?
I believe it's something that we have pushed down into us so deep, and we have it nearly locked away, and it's knocking, trying to get out. But every now and then, just let it loose. Don't be afraid. And if there's nobody around, don't be afraid anyway. And if there's somebody around, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel good, and it makes you feel happy, just do it and try it.
And happy is the word I was going to pick up on, because, like, is it one of the ways to be happy? To you know?
Like, if you think of the simplicity years ago, especially this time of the year, having leaf fights, people picking up handfuls of leaves and throwing them at each other, and you were laughing and joking, and nobody would get hurt, but it was all good energy and good fun. And when you follow, I think people grow up too quickly. And unfortunately for some kids, they don't get a chance to have a full childhood because there's so much pushed upon them now with social media and screens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're missing out on the silly, on just being a kid.
Do kids play conkers anymore? You know?
No, I think they're even banned in all the schools in case someone gets a...
Oh, for God's sake.
Now, unless they have the hard hat and steel toe caps.
Oh, for God's sake.
Everything is... And it's probably not cool either.
Yeah.
You know.
But I remember the crack we used to get out of that. Or we'd go off and collect berries and bring
all
them
the berries.
You know?
And that actually makes me worry this time of the year. Like, it's good to feed the birds at this time of the year.
Yeah.
But you see the hedgerows are being cut so low. Like, all those surplus berries, the hawthorn, the bramble, and even the ivy, like when they're cut down so low, that's a food supply for wildlife. So we need to be very conscious of those things also.
One of the things that we did chat about off air, I was just saying to you how peculiar the weather has become. I was in Killarney last night. When we were driving down, it was about 10 or 11 degrees. When I was coming home late last night, it was about 13 degrees.
Yeah.
Came out this morning, it was almost balmy. But the previous day was frosty and bitter cold.
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's chaos. It's chaos, you know. It's just, like, you could actually put out, if it's real frosty one night and you put out the cover over your window screen, you come out next morning, it's raining upon it.
Yeah.
And it's like it's an instant change. And it's just like the chaos even in that is just, I think there's something in it, we're not looking at it properly and we're taking for granted. That's just the way it is. But maybe it's not how it's meant to be, because it's just extremely quick and beyond unpredictable. You know, very.
Yeah. And you're seeing examples of that in what you do, I guess.
I'm watching it the whole time.
Are you? Yeah.
The whole time.
Are you afraid of what's happening?
I'm afraid of what's happening because it's too fast.
Yeah.
You know, and people say like, it's a natural cycle. It's a natural cycle, but things are happening at such a speed.
Do you mean where climate change is concerned? Then?
Everything like that, yeah. And people say to me, it's not real. It's not real. And let's pretend even if it's not real, but it's given people a serious focus on replanting and greening the world again. You know, so let's keep that side of it on the positive. And whether you believe in it or not, let's keep planting, let's keep everything nice and healthy.
Tell me what you're doing tomorrow, because it's going to be a special day. Sorry, Saturday.
Saturday, yes.
On
Saturday,
yes.
Saturday the 29th, there's a free event, and it's through the NTDC, which is the North Tipperary Development Company, and it's for ages 15 to 24. And it's free bus, free event, every single thing. The only thing you really need is a packed lunch. But you come out, and I'm going to be given a day of bushcraft and nature in the woods for a day, and 100% free. And all you had to do is contact Joanne Mulqueen at, like, you'll even find it up on social media, my own page,
yes,
even on the Nina community page. But I can throw out Joanne's details.
Yeah, if you would, yeah.
Well, the email is jmulqueen at ntdc.ie, and the phone number is 087 369 7922. And it's completely free, Fran.
Right, but you must register, I guess.
Just register.
Yeah, so that
you'll be collected in a bus, you'll be
numbers.
brought to the location. Everything you need is at the camp area. You'll be in a lovely natural woodland for the day. You'll have teas and coffees and herbal teas, and everything you get to do will be supplied for you. So
outdoors,
take the opportunity.
Outdoor skills, fire skills.
Outdoor skills.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people just take the opportunity, just dress warm, bring a packed lunch. That's all you need. You know.
It's very, very good indeed. You were going to tell me about something special And you wouldn't give me any information.
I'm saving that bit for last.
Oh, you're saving that bit for last.
Yeah,
are you?
but I do have a little bit of another event that's coming up on Friday evening.
It's about the lights, is it?
Very, very special event. And up in Euston Estate, every year for the last 20 years. And it's in aid of the hospice. Pat and Patricia Ahern have to turn on of the lights. The whole place is decked out like a winter wonderland. And the brass band shall be there, and the man in the big red suit will be there.
Very good.
Himself will be there. And I don't mean Johnny Luby, you know. And it's the turning on of the lights, an annual event. And if you have some spare change or a bit of spare cash, bring it along, throw it in. There'll be little, as they say, treats and teas and coffees. And it's absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
You should see the lights. You come around the corner, if the lights are on when you arrive, you'll be mesmerised.
All right, very
worth it.
Very good indeed. When you were speaking about being silly, one of our listeners on to say, Tom Bond was one young fella that was always doing silly things. Oh my God, he got up to some stuff. Ask him about it. Were you wild as a child?
Where's the bleep button? Yeah.
Were you?
A very wild child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm just, I think about it before I do it now, you know. But unfortunately, that doesn't work either, you know.
Right. And in what way were you wild?
Oh, how long have you got? You know, just full of energy.
Just full of energy.
Very, very particular energy, you know. And
but I mean, were you into the woods at that time?
I was always into it. I was born into it.
Yeah.
You know, but one thing I actually tell people is it is a very strange thing. Like, I grew up in Hamilton Drive here in Neenah, and I actually started my own bird watching club, which I even look back now thinking unusual for even a kid to want to do this. And I'd go out and I'd see how many sparrows I saw, how many blackbirds or robins or even crows or pigeons. So there was always that little click to being in the outside and nature.
Even as a kid, isn't that just amazing
definitely.
Altogether? All right, before we go, you better tell me then what it is you want to...
Right, Fran, this is the highlight of the show. I have an idea for a competition with Tipp FM.
Okay.
And what it is like, shop local is very important. Really, really important. And window shopping alone is unbelievably important. Just, you might see something you like, you might not realise what you're looking at. You might leave, it'll play in your mind, but you know it's there. So I was thinking, what if there was a competition where, through Tipp FM, of course, you're waiting for a very particular, any town in Tipperary, a town is nominated, they don't know which shop, but there's going to be a little tie in a shop. You don't know which shop window, you need to go find it.
Right.
And it has a little Tipp FM logo on it. Now, it needs to be a little dog. And if you can find which shop has this little doggy, you have to go inside and you got to sing a very particular line of a song. You know where I'm going with this.
This is the Patty Page song you were talking about.
It is. But how do they know it's in the shop window? Because Tipp FM will play, how much is that doggy in the window? Just one line. And now people know, quick, go check all the shop windows. And whoever finds it wins maybe a prize in that shop or a voucher.
Right.
I think it
That's
would
a
be
very good idea.
Excellent. And I'd love to see the people scurrying around the street, looking in the shop windows. And what they're not realising either is they actually are doing a bit of
window shopping.
Window shopping.
Aren't they just?
And when they go away from...
So this is good for business as well as
very good for business. And they don't,
what a great idea.
They don't realise what they're actually looking at. And they go away and they go, I actually spotted a very particular item in a very particular shop. And hopefully they'll go back and purchase it and help out with the shop local.
I love it. I'll tell you what, we will get Leanne on to organising the fine details of that.
One last thing.
Yes.
If and you should, do this top-class idea, I'd love to be there for inside the shop waiting for the very first winning customer.
Well,
to give them the big greet.
We will organise that for you, and we will certainly go with it. It's a wonderful idea. Really, really wonderful idea.
And once you hear on Tipp FM, how much is that doggy in the window? You know.
You have to go.
Move.
You have to go straight away. I love
first come. Oh, by the way, you can only claim the prize also if you sing that one line in the shop. Not allowed to speak anything else until you sing that line. It'd be fantastic.
I think it's going to be great indeed. So you have your Explore the Wilderness skills then on Saturday. But in general, if people want to make contact with you, Tom, about all the various things you're doing.
Yeah, there actually are people contact me about courses next year.
Yeah.
But they can just go on to the website or www.wovenworldbushcraft.ie. Just send me an email and I will get back to you with all the details.
All right. Always a delight, Tom. Thanks
Thank you,
very much for coming into us today.
Let's hope nobody steals our idea now for the competition.
We won't allow it. Simple as that.
We'll go patented straight away. You know.
I'd say our sales team are dashing into action as we speak. I would imagine. Tom, a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Fran. I love it.
We're live from Nina today. We'll take a break. We're back with more in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip today on 1800 938 007.
083 311 3311 for your text and your WhatsApp as well. Brian was on and he said, Fran, as you mentioned school shootings in the college enactments, has anybody noticed that school shootings have stopped since Trump took office? It's strange but coincidental. But has this been reported on in the US media statistics? Well, I had a brief look at that, Brian. I didn't have much time, but no, there's been shootings since Donald Trump took office. There's been shootings in Minnesota, in New Jersey, and those in Michigan. I think there was some in Chicago as well, as far as I know. So I don't think it's quite true. Now, maybe not on the scale that we've seen in other places at other times, but certainly have been shootings. Earlier on this week, local farmer Maurice Leamy joined us on the show to share his concerns around the processing of halal meat in Ireland. Yesterday, we spoke to Dr. Umar Al-Qadri, who is chairperson of the Irish Muslim Council, and he addressed some of the concerns and indeed spoke to us about some of the Islamic beliefs as well. Now, Maurice was listening to the interview and he's joining me now. Maurice, good morning to you.
Morning, Fran. How are you?
And good to talk to you today. You were listening to some of that interview, or all of that interview yesterday. What did you make of what Dr. Umar was saying to us?
Well, I'm going to try and be nice here, Fran. And I sent you the documentation that I received from the head veterinary officer in the department. I think you might have that in front of you, Fran.
It's right in front of me here, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you read out the figures, Fran, for the cattle for the 5 years from 2019 to 2024.
Well, can you read it for me, because I seem to have misplaced it here for a moment. Now I'll find it in a moment. But can you give us those figures?
Okay, so these are cattle, Fran, that have been slaughtered for halal markets, solely for halal markets, because there's no Jewish market for the last 5 years in Ireland. So from 2019 to 2024, Fran, 142,000 cattle odd in 2019, 104,000 odd in 2020, 72,000 in 2021, 105,000 odd in 2022, and 106,000 in 2023, and 105,000 in 2024. Now, we'll stick solely with the cattle for the moment, Fran. These are cattle, Fran, that are dying without prior stunning. Now, he stated yesterday that all animals in 99% of factories that are being slaughtered for halal meat purposes are receive stunning prior to slaughter. This is incorrect.
Well, no, I think now, in fairness, he was speaking about abattoirs that are certified by the Department of Halal Certification, was he not?
He was speaking for the one that he was on the board for.
Yes.
But there's more than one halal market, Fran.
Right.
There's different specified halal markets, and the majority of the Irish cattle that are being stunned, that are dying for the halal market, none of them are getting prior stunning, Fran. None of them. In our own county, Fran, I won't name the region, but let's just say our own 3 local TDs are in the voting vicinity of it. 1,500 cattle a week, Fran. As I'm talking to you today, Fran, there's an animal getting his throat sliced and with no prior stunning. 1,500 a week, Fran.
Right.
60,000 equates to 60,000 cattle a year from that one factory in Tipperary, Fran.
Right, but
he also
this is happening outside of the certification process, though, Morris.
No, it's happening for certified halal. Because these certain other halal certifying bodies will not accept pre-stunning. Now, I have to say I was delighted to hear that he was in favour of stunning.
Yes,
pre-stunning.
very much so, yes.
He's obviously unaware of what's been happening under the guise of Muslim religious rights in Ireland, Fran. He's obviously unaware. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to say he was spreading misinformation or disinformation, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I'm telling you quite clearly, Fran, this is from the head veterinary inspector. I sent it to you so there'll be no misunderstanding here. What is happening? I didn't give you the figures for the sheep. I don't want to bore you, and I don't mean to be flippant about it, but you're talking from 1 million in 2019 all the way through over 1 million up to 2023 and back down to 500,000.
He was aware, Morris, of some activity that was taking place in abattoirs outside of those that were certificated. But in fairness to him, he hasn't control over that.
Well, these are all abattoirs, Fran, will be under the Department of Agriculture inspection. Now, he also stated that at all times there will be veterinary officers watching what is going on. That's not the case, Fran. It couldn't be the case. You wouldn't have the people power like female vets or male vets. You would not have the people power there in the veterinary section to watch every animal that's getting slaughtered. He also stated no animal will witness one in front of it being slaughtered. But they mightn't witness it because there'll be a chute door in front of it. But literally the animal is 6 inches from the animal in front of it. So well, let's be honest here, Fran. I mean, I was delighted to hear, and I want to praise the man. I don't think he was being disingenuous. What I do believe is he's not fully aware of what's actually happening. So the fact that he has come out now and stated that he is totally against non-stunning debt for halal markets, that he's totally against it. Can we now get our politicians, because this is what the Department of Agriculture are crying out for. Tis our politicians, tis the public, the likes of me, sticking my head above it as usual. But we need to force our politicians, Fran. Now,
well you're right, because this guy is a very powerful guy. I mean, he's a leading Irish Muslim religious and social thinker. He's an Islamic theologian, and he's an imam.
Yeah, look,
and he stated categorically, you're right, he's totally in favour of the idea of stunning.
Totally in favour. So I think now it is time for our 3 local TDs, Fran, because this is happening in their region, our 3 local TDs, Fran, to come out from behind the bushes and grow a pair, and to look for the total banning of non-stun slaughter in this country, Fran, because when you have the leading cleric of our Muslim community in Ireland stating that he thinks it's a cruel and unnecessary cruelty to be inflicted on animals, I believe now is the time for a complete ban on it to be brought forward. And as I say, it is happening. It is the most common in our area. I don't want to name the factory, Fran, but let people make up their own mind. But now is the time for our local TDs, and I would ask if you could, Fran, to ask each of them to come on now, after the cleric being on yesterday stating that he thinks it's cruel and unnecessary cruelty. I would ask that you would ask for each of the 3 politicians to come on, and don't let them go hiding behind the bushes again, Fran.
Well, we will certainly do that, Morris. Do you know something that surprised? I mean, I'm an awful idiot that I didn't know this, but for cattle that are slaughtered in a normal fashion, the stun gun is used, it stuns them, but then how they're slaughtered is the very same as how the other cattle are slaughtered.
As I said it to you last September, Fran, slaughter is slaughter.
Yeah.
And what you can do to minimise...
But are people fully aware, because I wasn't, that animals still have to bleed out? Is it called a sangrenation or something like that?
Of course it is, yeah. They have to bleed out, yeah. Look, even if a fella shoots a deer and there's a neighbour mine down the road and he does that, and that's, animals have to bleed out, like from the old days, Fran. But we've moved on, Fran. Nothing should suffer unnecessarily, Fran, and that's as simple as that, you know. And the idea that animals have to suffer, as I say, for on any religious
But
ground.
are they not suffering? Are they not suffering anyway, Morris, to a greater or lesser degree?
No, when you're hit with a bull, Fran, like if someone said to you tomorrow, Fran, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to give you the choice. You can get a bull between the ears, Fran, or you can get a slice to your throat. What are you going to look for, Fran?
Well, yeah, but I mean, surely the bolt itself. I mean, is the animal
quick,
not?
Fran, it's like bang. It's bang, it's bang, you're gone. Your lights out, good night, Irene, Fran. And I don't mean to be flippant, Fran, but look, I'm coming at it all the time, Fran.
Right, but then while the animal is still alive, then the animal's throat is cut. And this isn't halal now. This is the normal stuff.
No, the animal isn't alive when the animal is fully rendered dead. For all intents and purposes, Fran.
No, Morris, it's stunned. It's stunned.
The animal, once the animal is hit with a ball, Fran, when the throat is sliced, the animal is dead. It has to be done within a certain time. Obviously, if it's stunned, Fran, and you leave it for 2 minutes, it could wake up again. But once the animal is hit with a ball, Fran, for all intents and purposes, it's gone. Especially with the cattle, Fran, with the sheep, Fran, it's an electrocution. Now, what happens with an electrocution is they can wake up again after a minute, but when the cattle are hit with a ball, Fran, bang, gone. That's the way it is.
Yeah, you see, I feel like a real hypocrite here because I love my steak, I love my beef, but I just don't want to know. I don't want to know how it arrives on my plate,
Fran,
if you know what I mean.
Look, it's all got to do with it. Now, and in fairness, to the supermarkets, and two major meat processors last year completely stopped the use of non-stunning. Completely stopped. So I think, thanks be to God, it is actually slowly decreasing in Ireland. I was unaware of it until lately. I would do with more research, and a very good friend in the department, high up, who's after giving me all this information. And he says, look, we want to stop, he says. But he says, it's up to the public. Pressure your politicians. Pressure your politicians. And he was delighted to hear, because I was actually only talking to him this morning, he was delighted to hear of the leading cleric in Ireland saying he's totally against. He says, go with it. Move with that now. Run with it. Because
we have that on tape. We have
you
that
have
on
it on tape. And look, to be fair to him, he sounds like he's a decent fella. You know what I mean?
Yep,
I'm not going to go for a cup of tea with him anytime soon or anything. But look, he sounds like he's a decent fella.
Why wouldn't you go for a cup of tea with him?
But sure, you know, I'm kind of awkward, Fran. You know,
God knows it's true, Morris.
Fran, can I come back to something else, Fran?
Just very briefly, because I'm out of time.
Jenny, Fran. Okay, right. In relation to the fox hunting, Fran, and there were two lads on yesterday. One was Dave, and one was Frankie or something. I think he was out sunning himself somewhere. So Frankie talked about good husbandry, Fran. Good husbandry, Fran, whether it's cattle or sheep or whatever is, Fran. The most farming that you can do outdoors, Fran, the healthier the animal is. As regards having ewes inside and sheds, which he talked about, Frankie talked about building sheds and bringing all your ewes in. Ewes will, if they have a double or a triplet, and even some stupid ewes, God love them, if they're big and heavy, they can even lie down on a single lamb. You'll have a lot more mortality inside the sheds. You have an awful lot more use of antibiotics. I'm an organic farmer, Fran. I try and limit all my antibiotic use, because that's what's killing the people, all the antibiotics in the food. So if Frankie is wrong there, I'm afraid. Good husbandry starts with outdoors, and leave them out as much as you possibly can. Coming back to David, he talked about he wouldn't go for a drink with these people on the hunt. Can I just give you some little figure, Fran, that was done in a study in 2017 of the importance of the sport horse industry in Ireland? Almost $1 billion it was worth to the national exchequer, Fran. The jobs involved, Fran, there was 14,000 full-time jobs. This is in a lot of the areas, Fran, in rural Ireland where there's nothing else going on. So 15,000 horse breeders, Fran. This is where the likes of Rachel Blackmore came from, Fran. Davy Russell. They were hunting, Fran. They were able to get out. They got gutsy. They were able to be brave being on the hunt. And then that transferred to them turned out to be excellent racehorse people. And that's why the Irish are the best at what they are in the racehorse industry.
I must say...
And don't
I must say goodbye and tally ho to you and all of that.
Before you say tally ho, friend, get on the three musketeers of our local CDs, and now that they're coming out from behind the bushes, maybe they will.
All right.
Thanks, friend.
Good. Thanks very much today. That's Maurice Leamy speaking to us there. That's it for me. Leanne produced. Ali looks after content. Davin has the time tunnel on the lunchtime show. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves, won't you? Bye now.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.